Welcome to the Deep Dive, your shortcut to being well-informed. Today we're plunging into a really profound, incredibly complex topic, the relationship between Pakistan, its powerful army, and the country's turbulent history. Our mission is to unpack the key insights from a really authoritative book, Shuja Nawaz's Crossed Swords, Pakistan, Its Army, and the Wars Within. We're going to explore how this army evolved, from a colonial force to this dominant political and social institution, leaving a huge mark on the nation's destiny.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's not just about military campaigns or battles fought. It's more of a journey, really, to understand how a military born from the sheer chaos of partition came to wield such pervasive influence over a nation's identity, its whole fabric. We'll look at the internal factors, the external pressures. What shaped this really unique trajectory? It's about power, identity, not just strategy.
Okay, let's get right into it, starting in Pakistan's inception. The army itself, it was born out of this chaotic split, inheriting very little. What did that look like on day one?
Well, it was a truly difficult birth, no question. The partition of British India in 1947, it led to this really emotional, often bitter division of the old British Indian Army. And Pakistan, in that split, got a disproportionately small share of resources. Think about it. Only 33 infantry regiments compared to India's 88. And many of those units were pretty under strength because Sikh or Hindu companies had left.
And crucially, the command wasn't even Pakistani at the start. It was British, right? What kind of challenge was that?
Oh, absolutely fundamental. The first two commanders-in-chief were British generals, senior Pakistani officers. They were incredibly scarce. Most hadn't even reached field rank before partition. So you had this huge vacuum, which led to really rapid promotion, sometimes, pushing officers maybe beyond their immediate experience level. It meant a brand new army trying to figure itself out without its own seasoned top brass.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting and fast. The Kashmir issue. It just flared up almost immediately, didn't it? Almost defining those early years.
Kashmir was absolutely pivotal right from the get-go. Geographically critical, bordering Afghanistan, the Soviet Union, China, Nepal, India. And it was a Muslim-majority state but had a Hindu ruler, Maharaja Hari Singh. So Pakistan fully expected it would join them, given the demographics, 77% Muslim and 41. But then the Radcliffe Line, that hastily drawn border.
The one that gave India access?
Exactly. It controversially gave India land access via Gurdaspur. That just poured fuel on the fire immediately. Deep sense of grievance in Pakistan.
And those early Pakistani plans for Kashmir, the book suggests they were almost, amateurish, even with key figures involved.
They really were, according to Nawaz. You had figures like Akbar Khan, Khurshid Anwar presenting plans for cross-border stuff. But the meetings, described as having amateur enthusiasm and, frankly, bickering among the principals. It highlights a kind of immaturity in the early military strategy. Internal divisions, lack of unified command. The army also apparently detected outside influences, INA, RSS, and Jammu, plus tribes wanting Kashmir to join Pakistan.
And this early conflict, these tensions, they had immediate political fallout, right? There was a major internal incident pretty early on.
Yes, a really critical early indicator. Pakistan's founder, Jinnah, even back in 1948, he sensed this misunderstanding among senior army officers about their role. He warned them very directly, the army must be servants and not masters. That itself tells you something was brewing. Then, tragically, Prime Minister Liaquat Ali Khan was assassinated in 1951, and just months before that, General Ayub Khan uncovered the Rawalpindi conspiracy.
The plot to overthrow the government.
The very one. Involving army officers like Akbar Khan, even the famous poet Faiz Ahmed Faiz. It was a stark early sign of military ambitions bubbling up against civilian rule, hints of those wars within.
Okay, so this internal power play, the Rawalpindi conspiracy, it clearly signals the military's growing weight. How did that internal dynamic then affect Pakistan's foreign relations, especially with the U.S. in the 50s?
That's a key link. Liaquat Ali Khan actually started that relationship, looking for economic aid, arms, and interestingly, that alliance got a big reboot after 2001. But the book notes this barely concealed mistrust on both sides, even then, based on past experiences. Each side had its own agenda.
The phrase "friends not masters" comes up here, tied to Ayub Khan. What was his role in shaping that U.S. connection?
Spot on. Ayub Khan, as army chief, really engineered that opening to Washington. He specifically wanted military aid. The U.S., deep in the Cold War, saw Pakistan as a vital anti-communist bulwark. But the aid came with strings, supposedly for international peace and legitimate self-defense, explicitly not aggression. Pakistan, though, as the book puts it, was willing to dance along to the U.S. tune, but also had its own agenda, often about India, really. And Nixon, as vice president, apparently developed a trust for Pakistanis while distrusting Indians.
And during this time, the military's hand in domestic politics just kept getting stronger, didn't it? Paving the way for that big shift.
Yes, there is this dormant wave of skepticism, as Nawaz calls it, about politicians' ability to run the country, especially after the Kashmir War. Bureaucrats, powerful figures like Iskander Mirza, who had been defense secretary, governor general, then president, they're increasingly aligned with Ayub Khan. Mirza felt hemmed in by the political chaos, saw the civilian government as ineffective.
So the stage was set for the first coup. And the U.S. reaction. That's quite revealing, too.
It really is. October 1958, Iskander Mirza declares martial law. He told the U.S. ambassador he was doing it to prevent an army takeover by officers below Ayub, a bit ironic. Ayub himself had already told the ambassador that only dictatorship will work in Pakistan, though he preferred a benevolent one. No quote. The U.S. advised against it, but then conceded exceptions, limited periods, only as the last resort, which basically amounted to a green light. Strategic interests overriding democratic ideals, even back then. And initially, public reaction was quite favorable. People hoped for action against corruption, black markets. Shows the frustration.
Now, Ayub Khan's martial law wasn't just a power grab. He tried to re-engineer the country, even wrote a new constitution. How did he try to shape his rule?
Right, he wanted to frame it as benevolent and progressive, not just a military junta. His 1962 constitution had a powerful president, chosen by an electoral college, not direct vote. He called it a blending of democracy with discipline, discipline being the operative word, perhaps. He also claimed he wanted to keep the army out of the day-to-day running of things, at least outwardly, maintain that civilian facade.
At the cost of these military ambitions, it became brutally clear after the 1965 war with India, right? Hitting development hard.
Oh, a critical point and a recurring theme. Defense spending basically doubled between the early 60s and the late 60s. That took a huge toll on development spending. To give you perspective, by 2005, Pakistan's defense spending was 3.4% of GDP. India's was 2.34%. It put Pakistan among the highest burdens of military spending globally, a massive trade-off.
Let's zero in on that 1965 war. Sounds like internal issues, maybe some surprising missteps on Pakistan's side.
Indeed. Pakistan launched Operation Gibraltar, using irregulars in Kashmir, thinking it would spark a local uprising. It didn't. And India responded by crossing the international border into West Pakistan, a major escalation. The book talks about ham-handedness in command, like replacing a general mid-battle in the Cham sector, and maybe most revealing, Ayub Khan himself was reportedly surprised by India's counterattack. He apparently expected India to just crumble under a couple of quick blows. A significant miscalculation.
Those miscalculations, that sense of vulnerability after 65, it must have exposed deeper problems, especially regarding East Pakistan, setting the stage for 1971.
Absolutely. The 65 war really highlighted how vulnerable East Pakistan felt. Its defense was seen as being based in the West. So East Pakistanis felt vulnerable and forgotten. Demands for more autonomy, better economic treatment grew louder. They felt exploited. But the central government, under Ayub and later Yahya Khan, painted these demands as a dangerous trend, basically secessionist.
And the military leadership just didn't seem to get the political reality in the East Wing. What were the key mistakes there?
That seems to be the case. After the 1970 elections, Sheikh Mujibur Rahman's Awami League won a landslide in East Pakistan, an overall majority for all of Pakistan. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto's PPP won in the West. Mujib had the mandate. Yahya Khan tried to, patch things up, but colleagues reportedly warned him off, feared Mujib would push for secession or cut the army's power. Critically, General Yaqub Khan, the military administrator in East Pakistan, refused to implement Operation Blitz, the planned crackdown. He argued there was no military solution which can make sense, predicted civil war, mass killings, achieving no sane aim. He resigned. His warning went unheeded.
But the result was just devastating. A new reality for Pakistan, more than just a military loss.
Far more. A profound national trauma. The 71 war led to India's victory, the birth of Bangladesh. As the book says, quite starkly, Jinnah's Pakistan died with the signing of the surrender document in Dhaka on 16 December 1971. It wasn't just symbolic. It shattered the founding idea of a geographically unified Pakistan. It fueled political instability, made Kashmir an even bigger focus, and forced Pakistan to redefine itself, often deepening that civil-military imbalance.
Okay, after that defeat, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto takes charge.
Yes.
Civilian leadership returns, but
controversial, and a huge decision on nuclear weapons. What was his impact?
Bhutto became both president and chief martial law administrator, huge power. Led for 6 pretty tumultuous years. He brought in Islamic socialism, land reforms, nationalized industries, and yes, crucially, he massively accelerated the nuclear weapons program. Though PAEC, the Atomic Energy Commission, had existed since '56. But he also, controversially, weakened the civil service, and his confrontational style alienated a lot of people.
Right, the nuclear journey started earlier, more as research.
Yes, PAEC formed in '56 under the U.S. Atoms for Peace. Initially, civilian focus. They found uranium in '63. But it was Bhutto, really pushed by the '71 defeat, who made it a top strategic priority. National security, deterrence, the ultimate guarantee in their eyes.
But following that familiar pattern, Bhutto's time was cut short by the military again. How did that happen?
Well, there were huge street protests after the dispute in 1977 elections, and General Zia-ul-Haq stepped in, imposed martial law. His regime brought intense Islamization, banning alcohol, declaring Ahmadis non-Muslims, changed the social fabric, and then he very skillfully used the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan, made Pakistan a vital U.S. frontline state.
Which brought in massive U.S. aid. But Zia's style, keeping the uniform as president, this Byzantine manner of rule.
Exactly. The U.S. opened the aid, taps a $3.2 billion plan. Zia, while president, kept his uniform, kept his role as army chief. Consolidated power personally. That Byzantine description refers to him centralizing everything, encouraging corps commanders to bypass the hierarchy and deal directly with him. Cemented his control.
And the nuclear program under Zia. How did he manage U.S. concerns?
He was pretty bold about it. Famously told Time magazine in '87, "You can write today that Pakistan can build a bomb whenever it wishes." This was despite U.S. non-proliferation worries, but those worries often got put on the back burner because of the Afghan war. The U.S. needed Pakistan. Strategic priorities again.
His era ended so mysteriously, though. That plane crash. Still debated today.
Very much so. August 17th, 1988. Zia, senior officers, the U.S. ambassador, all died in that C-130 crash near Bahawalpur. The general feeling immediately was this was not an accident. Official reports said criminal act or sabotage. Conspiracy theories flew Soviets, Indians, Israelis, internal factions. Even the U.S. ambassador to India theorized Mossad involvement and was then declared mentally incompetent. That just fueled more speculation. It's an enduring mystery.
After Zia, another attempt at democracy. But the military's influence, still very much there, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
How did that play out?
Yes, this period saw the rise of the Troika, an informal power structure. President, prime minister, and crucially, the chief of army staff. Basically, no big decisions happen without the army chief's okay, explicit or implicit. General Beg, Zia's successor, gave Benazir Bhutto those 5 points, essentially red lines on defense, nuclear, Afghanistan policy, don't interfere, showed exactly where the real power still lay.
And the 90s became this revolving door Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif, governments dismissed, highlighting that fragility.
Exactly. Both Benazir Bhutto and Nawaz Sharif got dismissed by presidents exercising powers often seen as backed by the establishment. You had generals like Beg publicly talking about strategic defiance against the U.S. in the Gulf War, almost charting their own foreign policy. Constant tension. General Asif Nawaz, COAS 91-93, clashed hard with PM Nawaz Sharif over policy in Sindh. He even launched an army inquiry that led to a major being executed for murdering peasants, the army acting very independently.
Which brings us to Kargil in 1999. Still so much controversy about who knew what.
Kargil is a really complex and frankly troubling episode. General Musharraf, who was DGMO earlier, had apparently shown Benazir Bhutto a war game, lose Punjab Sindh, win Kashmir, which she thought was unrealistic. The actual intrusion was spotted by Indian shepherds initially. Musharraf, now army chief, stressed sanctity of discussions in military meetings, basically. No dissent allowed once a decision was made. Points to an insular process. How much PM Nawaz Sharif knew is still fiercely debated. Musharraf's side suggested he must have known once the defense secretary was briefed. But the lack of clarity, the lack of accountability, it just screams civil-military divide.
And that leads directly to Musharraf's coup later that year, another interruption. And his time also saw the A.Q. Khan scandal break.
Yes. After Sharif tried to sack Musharraf while he was out of the country, Musharraf's generals took over. Swift coup. Musharraf suspended the constitution, held a referendum for legitimacy, the usual playbook, and then bam, the A.Q. Khan nuclear proliferation scandal hit the world stage, exposed this whole hidden network, raising huge questions about state control.
The A.Q. Khan story itself is just massive, transferring nuclear tech internationally. How did Musharraf handle that embarrassment?
Dr. Khan admitted transferring technology Iran, North Korea, Libya over roughly a decade, from '89 to 2000. Musharraf pardoned him, called him a national hero, put him under protective custody, refused IAEA or U.S. access. He even called Khan and his team mujahids, holy warriors. It showed a real determination to prevent the stain from reaching the army institution itself, reputation over international accountability.
So looking back over all this history,
Yeah.
how did it change the army itself? It wasn't just shaping the nation, it was being shaped too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It started as a colonial army, limited recruitment. Over time, it drew from a much wider population base. And particularly after Zia, a growing Islamist current emerged within the ranks. The book notes this shift where sometimes cold military logic seemed replaced by Islamic slogans and prayers, even influencing planning. And the army taking on more and more civilian admin roles that raised concerns about diluting its core military skills, creating distractions.
So after walking us through these decades, what's the final takeaway from Cross Swords about the path forward for civil-military relations in Pakistan?
The book's conclusion is pretty clear. For Pakistan to really develop politically, to flourish economically, it doesn't need another military intervention, another huge upheaval. It stresses that the army has to truly subject itself to civilian oversight and control. Not just on paper, but in practice. Appearing before parliament, being accountable, making sure it doesn't become an instrument of civilian dictatorship either. That's the fundamental challenge, breaking that historical pattern of dominance.
What a journey. We've traced this incredibly complex story, seeing the military's deep influence at literally every major turn in Pakistan's history. Defending borders, yes, but also shaping the nation's very identity.
And these recurring themes just keep coming up, don't they? That struggle for stable democracy, the heavy weight of external pressures, that internal quest for identity within the military itself. The challenges are so deeply systemic, so complex, it really goes to the core of the nation.
And as the source material suggests, the way forward seems to rely on a real transformation, where we truly means all Pakistanis, not just the army, having a say in the future.
So the question maybe for you, our listener, to reflect on after this deep dive is this. How can a nation so profoundly shaped by its military's past and its ongoing influence actually build genuine civilian supremacy? How does it ensure accountability so its powerful institutions genuinely serve rather than steer its democratic path forward?